Welcome back to The Past Unfolded, where we peel back the layers of history to reveal the stories that shaped our world. Stories of triumph, tragedy, and the quiet moments that echo through the ages. Today, we step into the life of a man whose name is etched into the annals of American history, yet whose story remains shrouded in shadow. Zachary Taylor, the 12th President of the United States. But before he was a president, before he was a legend, he was a soldier. A man forged in the crucible of a young nation's chaos. This is not just a tale of power. It's a journey into the heart of a man who lived on the edge of destiny. Picture this, it's 1784, and America is a fledgling nation, barely a decade removed from the Declaration of Independence. The air is thick with possibility and peril. On November 24th, in a modest log house near Barbersville, Virginia, a child is born to a family of planters and patriots. His name is Zachary Taylor, and though his cradle is humble, his blood carries the weight of a revolutionary legacy. His father, Richard Taylor, had fought alongside George Washington in the War for Independence, a fact that would shape young Zachary's life in ways he could scarcely imagine. Zachary's early years were not spent in the marble halls of privilege, but on the raw, untamed frontier. When he was still a boy, his family uprooted itself, chasing opportunity westward to the wilds of Kentucky. This was no gentle land. It was a place of dense forests, roving bands of native warriors, and settlers clinging to survival. It's here, amid the whispers of the wilderness, that Taylor's character begins to take root. He wasn't schooled in the classics or groomed for politics. No, his education came from the land itself, the harsh lessons of resilience, the quiet strength of endurance. You can almost see him as a boy, standing on a ridge, gazing out at a horizon that seemed to promise both danger and destiny. By 1808, at the age of 24, that destiny called him to arms. The United States was a nation still finding its footing, its borders under constant threat from foreign powers and indigenous tribes alike. Taylor didn't hesitate. He joined the U.S. Army as a first lieutenant, stepping into a world of muskets, mud, and unrelenting hardship. This wasn't a choice born of ambition, it was a calling. The frontier had taught him that survival demanded action, and action demanded courage. Little did he know, this decision would set him on a path that would one day lead to the White House. But who was this man really? Beneath the uniform, beyond the battlefield, what drove Zachary Taylor? Was it duty, honor, or something deeper? Something forged in those early days of struggle? As we'll see, his life was a tapestry of war and sacrifice, woven with threads of grit and an unshakable sense of purpose. This is only the beginning. In the next part, we'll follow Taylor into the fire of conflict, where a soldier becomes a hero and a hero becomes a legend. If you're as captivated by the past as I am, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that bell. Join me next time on The Past Unfolded as we ride into the battles that shaped Zachary Taylor and the nation he would one day lead. Until then, keep searching for the stories that time forgot. It's 1812, and the United States is once again at war. The War of 1812 pits a fragile nation against the might of Britain, while native tribes, allied with the crown, strike at the edges of American settlements. For 28-year-old Captain Zachary Taylor, this is no distant conflict. It's personal. Stationed at Fort Harrison, a lonely outpost in the Indiana Territory, he's tasked with holding the line against an enemy that outnumbers him 10-1. Picture it, a wooden fort, its walls weathered and splintered, surrounded by dense forests. Inside, a handful of men, sick, exhausted, outnumbered, look to Taylor for hope. On September 4th, 1812, that hope is tested. A force of nearly 600 native warriors, led by Tecumseh's allies, descends on Fort Harrison. Under cover of night, they set the fort ablaze, the fire roaring as arrows rain down. Taylor, his voice steady despite the chaos, rallies his men. 50 soldiers, many too ill to stand. He's everywhere at once, barking orders, dousing flames, firing into the dark. For hours, the battle rages, a desperate stand against overwhelming odds. And yet, when dawn breaks, the fort still stands. The attackers retreat, and Taylor emerges not just as a survivor, but as a hero. This moment marks a turning point. The defense of Fort Harrison earns Taylor a brevet promotion to major, the first of his career, and a reputation as a man who doesn't flinch in the face of danger. But this is no tale of glory alone. War is a brutal teacher, and Taylor learns its lessons well. Courage isn't the absence of fear, but the will to act through it. That will would carry him through decades of conflict, from the Black Hawk War to the Seminole Wars, each battle etching deeper lines into his weathered face. By the 1830s, Taylor is no longer the young officer of Fort Harrison. He's a colonel now, a seasoned commander known as Old Rough and Ready, a nickname earned not from pomp, but from his willingness to share the hardships of his men. He sleeps on the ground beside them, eats the same meager rations, and leads from the front. In the swamps of Florida, fighting the Seminole, he wins victories where others falter, his stubborn resolve a beacon in the mire. But these triumphs come at a cost. Lives lost, years spent far from his family, and a growing weariness that no medal can erase. Zachary Taylor's life was becoming a legend, written in blood and smoke. Yet the greatest test was still to come. A war that would thrust him into the spotlight and set the stage for an unlikely rise to power. We've followed Zachary Taylor from the frontier to the front lines, a soldier shaped by hardship and heroism. Now, in the blistering heat of 1846, we find him at the edge of a conflict that will redefine his legacy and the nation he serves. This is the story of the Mexican-American War, where Old Rough and Ready becomes more than a commander. He becomes a symbol. It begins with a dispute over borders. The United States, hungry for expansion, annexes Texas in 1845, igniting tensions with Mexico. By 1846, war is inevitable. Taylor, now a brigadier general, is sent to the Rio Grande with a small army, barely 4,000 men, many of them green recruits. He's 61 years old, his body weathered by decades of service, but his spirit is unyielding. Across the river, a Mexican force twice his size waits, confident in their numbers. What unfolds next is a clash that defies the odds. May 8, 1846, the Battle of Palo Alto. Taylor's men are outnumbered, outgunned, facing a disciplined enemy on open ground. But Taylor doesn't waver. With a keen eye for terrain and a trust in his artillery, he turns the tide. His cannons roar, cutting through the Mexican lines while he rides among his troops, calm amid the storm. The next day, at Resaca de la Palma, he presses the advantage, driving the enemy back in a fierce, close-quarters fight. 2 battles, 2 victories, against all expectations. The nation takes notice. These victories catapult Taylor into the spotlight. Letters and dispatches flood newspapers back home, painting him as a hero of the common man. Gruff, unpolished, but unbreakable, his soldiers adore him. He's not a distant general in a gilded tent, but one of them, sharing their risks and their resolve. Yet every triumph carries a shadow. The war drags on, and in 1847, Taylor faces his greatest challenge at Buena Vista. Outnumbered 4-1, with 4,500 men against 20,000, he stares down an army led by Mexico's formidable General Santa Anna. It's a battle that could break him or immortalize him. February 23, 1847. The air is thick with dust and gunpowder. Santa Anna demands surrender. Taylor's reply is curt, "I decline." What follows is a brutal 2-day struggle. Cavalry charges, artillery barrages, and desperate stands. Taylor, ever the rock, holds his ground, his presence a rallying cry. Against all odds, he wins again. Buena Vista seals his legend. But it's a hollow victory for a man who's seen too much death. He writes home to his wife, Margaret, of the toll it takes, the weight of lives lost under his command. Zachary Taylor emerges from the Mexican War a national icon, his name whispered in awe from taverns to Capitol Hill. But fame is a double-edged sword, and the path ahead leads not just to glory, but to an unexpected destiny. What happens when a soldier steps from the battlefield to the ballot box? After the Mexican War, Taylor returns home a living legend. At 63, he's a man of few words and fewer pretensions. No polished speeches, no grand estates. He owns a modest plantation in Louisiana, a wife, and a family he's barely seen through decades of service. But the country he fought for is fracturing. Slavery divides North and South, political parties bicker, and the people crave a leader who stands above the fray. The Whig Party, hungry for a winner, turns to Taylor. He's no politician, they admit, but he's a symbol, a victor, a unifier, a man of the people. Here's the twist. Taylor doesn't want it. He's never voted in his life, never declared a party. "I am a soldier, not a statesman," he grumbles. Yet the clamor grows. Letters pour in, urging him to run. The Whigs see a chance to ride his fame to victory, and in 1848, they nominate him as their candidate for president. His platform? Vague. His promises? Few. He leans on his record, his grit, his honesty, and the people, tired of slick politicians, love him for it. Against Democrat Lewis Cass, Taylor campaigns not with words, but with presence. November 7th, 1848. The votes are tallied. Taylor sweeps the Electoral College, 163 to 127, winning both slave states and free states, a rare feat in a divided nation. At 64, he becomes the 12th president of the United States, sworn in on March 4th, 1849. It's a moment of triumph, but beneath the cheers lies a stark truth. Taylor is unprepared. He's a man of action, not deliberation, thrust into a role where battles are fought with pens and promises, not swords, and the challenges ahead are daunting. Washington buzzes with hope and suspicion. Taylor takes office as a Whig, but he's no puppet. He shocks his party by opposing the spread of slavery into new territories, a stance that wins him enemies in the South. His blunt style ruffles feathers. He's no diplomat, no compromiser. To him, the Union is sacred, and he'll defend it with the same stubborn resolve he showed at Buena Vista. But can a soldier's heart navigate the treacherous currents of politics? That question looms as his presidency begins. Zachary Taylor's journey from battlefield to the White House is a testament to a life of duty, but the hardest trials are yet to come. What happens when a hero faces not enemies, but allies turned foes? The story's far from over. March 4th, 1849. Taylor takes the oath under a gray sky, his voice steady, but his heart untested in this new arena. America is a powder keg. The Mexican War has won vast territories, California, New Mexico, but with them comes a question that threatens to tear the nation apart. Will slavery spread westward? The South demands it. The North resists. Congress is a battlefield of shouts and stalemates. Taylor, the slave-owning Southerner, surprises everyone. No, he declares. He wants California and New Mexico to join as free states, a stance that sets him against his own region and his own party. This isn't the Taylor the Whigs expected. They chose him as a war hero, a malleable figurehead, but old Rough and Ready doesn't bend. He's blunt, stubborn, guided by a soldier's sense of duty to the Union above all else. To the South, he's a traitor. To abolitionists, he's not enough. Threats of secession whisper through the halls of power. Taylor's response? Unyielding. If they try to break this nation, he warns, I'll hang them as I hang deserters in Mexico. It's no idle threat, he means it, and his enemies know it. But governing isn't fighting. Taylor struggles. He's no master of compromise, no weaver of political webs. His cabinet is a patchwork of loyalists and Whig leftovers. His speech is plain and unpolished. Yet there's a raw honesty to him that resonates. He pushes for a stronger union, a faster path for statehood. Even as the Compromise of 1850, a plan to balance slave and free states, gains traction, Taylor resists it, believing it's a bandage on a wound too deep to heal. He's a man out of his depth, yet fiercely determined to hold the line. 16 months into his term, the strain shows. Taylor is 65, his body worn from years of war, and now the relentless pressure of leadership. On July 4th, 1850, he attends a sweltering Independence Day event in Washington. The sun beats down as he sits through speeches, sipping water, eating cherries. Hours later, he's struck by a violent illness. Fever, cramps, agony. Doctors swarm, diagnosing cholera or gastroenteritis, but their remedies fail. For 5 days, he fights, his family at his bedside, the nation holding its breath. On July 9, 1850, Zachary Taylor slips away, his presidency cut short, his mission unfinished. A hero falls, and a nation mourns or schemes. What happens when a leader's death leaves a fractured country at a crossroads? July 9, 1850. Zachary Taylor dies in the White House, just 16 months into his presidency. At 65, his body surrenders to illness, perhaps cholera, perhaps something simpler, but his spirit, that unyielding force, leaves a void. The Capitol mourns, bells toll, flags droop, and thousands gather to bid farewell to old Rough and Ready. His body is laid to rest in Louisville, Kentucky, far from the battlefields and political wars he knew so well. But as the dirt settles over his grave, the nation he led begins to unravel. Taylor's death is a turning point. Without his iron will, the Compromise of 1850, once stalled by his resistance, gains ground under his successor, Millard Fillmore. It's a fragile truce, delaying the slavery question rather than solving it. The Union holds, but the cracks deepen. Some whisper Taylor could have stopped the coming storm, the Civil War a decade away. Others argue he was too rigid, too much a soldier to bend. What's certain is this: his absence shifts the tide, leaving history to wonder what might have been. So, what do we make of Zachary Taylor? He was no philosopher king, no orator weaving grand visions. He was a man of action, rough-hewn, resolute, shaped by a life of duty. From defending a burning fort to defying a fractured Congress, he stood firm when others faltered. His presidency was brief, his triumphs bittersweet, yet his story resonates. He was a bridge between America's rugged past and its turbulent future, a hero not of perfection, but of perseverance. Today, Taylor rests in obscurity, his name a footnote to many, but to those who dig deeper, he's a reminder. Greatness isn't always in the glory. It's in the grit, the quiet courage that holds a line when all seems lost. That's The Past Unfolded, a tale worth remembering. As we close this journey, I leave you with this: what legacies lie buried in the shadows of your own history? Search for them. They're waiting. Thank you for joining me on The Past Unfolded. If Taylor's story stirred you, hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell. Share your thoughts below. What do you think his legacy means today? Until next time, keep chasing the past. It's where we find ourselves.